What's up? This is Cobhams Asuquo, and this is my exclusive on HipTv. When I think of myself today, I think of myself as a composer, as a musical director, as someone who's had the good fortune of being a culture shaper in my own little way, and as a performing artist. Yeah, so that's how I think of myself. First of all, I understand the power of the music that I create. I know that music is powerful. It's been proven over the years. That's why politicians use it to campaign. That's why people use it to sell products. That's why people use music for all kinds of things. That's why people use it in movies, to dictate the mood. And so, as a producer, I'm able to control, all of these different interests. I kind of know the parameters that control how music makes a person feel. Also, as a producer, making music for other artists means I'm able to shape, what they say, how they sound, all of that stuff. And as a composer, also, I'm able to create music that reflects, my culture or the culture of whatever space that I'm trying to depict. So that puts, a lot of power in my hands as a creative, to be able to paint, the picture, the desired picture. And so yes, when you have that kind of interest and that kind of responsibility, naturally you grow from just producing music to sort of influencing taste, and contributing to growing the culture, and in some cases influencing, and shaping the culture. Yeah, so I always knew that my music was going to be more than just production. I like to see myself as someone who's in touch with himself. I like to see myself as someone who's growing to know himself more and more. And I think that's important. I think you can go through this world asleep, and you can do a lot of things, but still just sort of be asleep in the scheme of things. I like to think of myself as someone who's slowly waking up to who I am, to my assignment, to my person, to my personality. Yeah, so I believe I'm knowing myself. It's a gradual process, considering there's decades of unlearning to do, but that makes me, I think, interesting. I think I'm also someone who is continuing to understand the importance of love, in this world, and love expressed in its truest, purest form. I think I'm also letting that define me. I think I like enjoyment. I think I like life. I like people. Um, you know, I like goodness. I like fairness. I understand that it's not always going to be fair, and that in itself is a form of fairness. Yeah, so I'm just, I think I'm philosophical. I think I'm exciting. I think um, I like the things I like, and I enjoy them hard. I overdo the things I like, and then I stop doing them altogether for long periods of time, and then I come back to them, and I'm just, I just live life. I'm not afraid of making mistakes. I'm not afraid of learning. I have a heart that's open to forgive. I'm learning to forget. um, yeah, and God is at the center of everything that I do, but God more than religion, to be honest. And I have a thing for people, I think, and for treating people fairly. And I'm figuring my way around life, and I'm excited about it. Yeah, I think that's really who I am. I like food, of course. I like food and good company. I like family and friends. And yeah, I'm involved in my community. I like to think of myself as someone who's involved in this community. I'm gaining wisdom, and I'm learning to share the wisdom that I gain. Yeah, and of course, I love music. I over love music. I think that's who I am. Sometimes, when you're focused on how big, and when you take stock of how big what you do really is, it can be disappointing, because I think sometimes I'm not even associated with my biggest work. because the work is so big and it just blows, out of proportion and out of my hands. And I cannot even say that I did it because, it just carries on. And we're in a space where credit is also a bit tricky. And to be honest, that's really not my focus. My interest is in doing the next big thing. So I don't know that there's a point for me where it became, oh, okay, oh, you're now doing this and this is big enough for people to take note. Let the work just continue to go out there and speak for itself, and hopefully let me continue to get the value of the work. Whether it be money, whether it be access, whatever it is. I think that's really my focus. And I'm not. Yeah. Feel I'm most proud of contributing to the culture and to the soundscape of Nigerian and African music, with the music that I started to create when I started to create music. And I didn't start to create music because I wanted to contribute. I started to create music because I love music and because I had artists who took a chance in me when a lot of people wouldn't. And it was important for me to do them right, and it was important for me to share that I had an edge and I had a sound. Over time, that edge and that sound became a reference point, and so it became my contribution. And as I became more aware and more responsible, I began to become more intentional in how I used the sound to shape culture and shape music and all of that. I don't think of myself as someone who builds hit songs. I feel like, yeah, hit songs happen through me because I'm trying to create real music, and real music end up becoming hit songs because they are relatable. But in terms of what I'm building now, that is beyond all of that. I'm doing a lot in terms of capacity building. I'm working on projects that will, hopefully spring forth many mini Cobhams who I believe will do much much better than I've done, because of my ability to impart my experience, my knowledge, my skills, whatever it is I have, and to bring together my friends who also have this experience, the experience and the knowledge and the skill. So I'm working on projects that center around that. I'm also spending more time in film scoring, which is something I've always wanted to do because I feel like it's a higher level of music interpretation. It's using music to reflect life. It's using the frequencies and the tonalities of music to reflect, to control or manipulate is such a not nice word in this instance, but to enhance, I think would be more appropriate. To enhance the mood, in a movie. So I'm enjoying that, and it also allows me use my knowledge of music, the variations, the progressions, just the different things that are outside of a basic 4-bar loop or a basic 8-bar loop to create something that's sort of more meaningful and more nuanced in terms of the different expressions, and also to represent, the African culture and the African sound. Film scoring is a space that's controlled and dominated by, where film in itself came from. And so to be able to contribute from an African perspective and to blend the African sound with, the Western sound as well is, I think, beyond music and beyond making hit tracks. So the Five Alive World Tour just wrapped up, and I had the privilege of being the musical director for Davido's Five Alive World Tour. For me, that was a huge privilege, and no small feat. Obviously, Davido is arguably one of the best, or the best artist in this space, and has just done incredibly amazing things for himself. Continuing to push the envelope and continuing to push the African sound. Um, so part of the difference between creating a regular song and being a musical director for a live show is, you need to be able to feel the pulse of for creating music. You need to understand what obtains commercially. You need to understand the heart of the artist. You need to vocal direct the artist and make the artist sound their best. Bring the musicians, make them sound their best. Make sure that the sonic integrity is guaranteed in terms of mixing and mastering. But in terms of a live concert, and then to make sure that the material, is commercially acceptable and, it goes out there and it's a hit and not a miss. But in terms of live musical direction, you need to feel the pulse of the audience before they get into the stadium or the arena or the room, whatever it is. You need to know what will excite them. You need to know how to curate a show so that from the very beginning you don't lose the attention of the audience. You need to understand transitions. You need to understand that the audience the audience has listened to its favorite songs and has formed an opinion around those songs. When you need to reimagine the songs in a way that the audience hears it and it becomes an experience that takes them back to that room whenever they think about it, or that stadium whenever they think about it. You also need to understand how to make the artist excited about the same songs that they've been singing over and over again. You also need to understand the right key changes that joins the songs together. You need to know how to sequence the songs, not in form of creating an album, but in form of creating a live experience where from performance to performance, from set to set, where the artist or someone might have to change and where they might have to come back. The music is it allows for there to be a seamless transition of all those other back end situations. You need to understand how to create fire, create emotion, create joy, pain, sorrow, happiness, all kinds of things with the music people have already known. You need to know where to take out stuff that they're used to hearing, how to introduce stuff that they've never heard, how to create syncopations in the parts of the song that they are really familiar with, so that you can build the energy and build the excitement. So it's all about the audience and about the artist, and about the band and about the communication of everybody. It's how to make a big room seem small, because everyone is connected in this musical experience. So yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of human relations, just understanding how people work. It's about knowing how to work with the other elements that are present in the room, which are not present when you're working on an album project. For instance, how the lighting, the lighting sequence, or background video sequence, or pyrotechnics, or dancing sequence, or how all of those things fit with the music, and how all of that elevates a holistic experience. So you need to have a mindset that's able to drive everything, because everything is resting on the music, and you need to take all of these different elements into consideration when you are recrafting the music for the purpose of a live experience. Everything is just better when you experience it, with the people who made it in the room. The artist is able to be spontaneous. It's not a recorded experience that cannot be manipulated, in a different way. The artist can stop the music, move the music along, connect with you as an artist. There is a slight chance that you might be able to make a direct connection with the artist, that can change something. So live music experience opens up possibilities. Whereas those possibilities are limited, when it's just a recording. Also, with the advent of AI, I don't know about, I don't know what the future will look like, but as we speak right now, you can represent yourself as a live artist. You are out there. There's no AI impersonation of you that can do what you will do when you engage your audience. You are your real you, your most authentic self. You're vulnerable, you're brave, you're elegant, you are alive and in living color. You are amazing. You are you can project yourself, from your heart to your people. And I feel like there's a human and a spiritual connection between an artist and his band, or his or her band, and the people in the room, that cannot be replicated, when you're just watching. It's spontaneous. It's an amazing moment. And people will pay a lot, to come out and see that and be part of that experience. So yes, live music is always going to be something. It just is what it is. It's raw. It's a genuine, honest experience. And every time it happens, there is always, however little, even if it's just a smidgen, there's something that is that does not repeat itself, and only repeats itself in form of a record because it's been recorded. But in that live experience, there is something that is, always new, always brand new. Even if you're performing the same song, it's the crack of the voice, how it changes ever so slightly. There's just something, that's a record the best a record can do is repeat it. But what live can do is give you that once in a lifetime experience. Every live performance is on its own. First of all, art in itself is almost always storytelling. Whatever art form, whether it be visual arts or whatever art form is, whether it's drama or it's a painting or it's music, we're depicting life. We're telling stories, whether it's a documentary, whether it's make believe, fiction, whether it's biopic, whatever it is. We're always capturing someone's experience. Or if we're not capturing someone's experience, we're elevating an experience that is possible, even if it is in an alternate universe. There's always stories to it. The best songs, whether hip hop or country or akbala or juju or whatever it is, we all know Ebenezer Obey, Chief Commander Ebenezer Obey, for who he is because of his ability to tell stories. Everybody knows the Kete Kete. I mean, just about everybody knows the Kete Kete story. Just how important that is. And so for me, when I think of film, it's ironic because I can't see. I'm a blind person, but I'm also able to absorb the information of a movie through the dialogue and through what the sound says. And so a heroic moment sometimes is best described through the silence of words and the presence of music. And having absorbed and been a beneficiary of that over the years, I have an in-depth level of understanding. And I think also having studied it, because just being a beneficiary is not enough. You need to study it, you need to understand the nuances, you need to understand the expressions, you need to understand the technicality, I think, of it more than anything else, and the heart and the inspiration and spirit of it. You need to understand the theme. So understanding all of that, I think it would be a travesty not to put that understanding to practice, and also as someone who's able to absorb music, absorb film through what I hear and what I perceive, it gives me a unique advantage, I think, over a person who absorbs through what they see, because music is auditory, by nature, and being able to control or to enhance or influence the mood through music is something that I have enjoyed and I'm able to recreate on a higher level. So knowing that and just being a lover of films myself and understanding the responsibility to help create a sound, especially in Nigeria and Africa, that is our own identity. Because before you know what's happening, it's the same way we've adopted suit and tie and all kinds of things for our corporate style and style outlook. We then adopt a purely sort of Western sonic identity, before we know it. And rather than that happen, with the knowledge and expertise that I have, I think it behooves me to step into that space and share what I know and contribute to the conversation. I'm clearly not the only one doing it. There are the likes of Kaline Music and Kulanen and all of these other people who are creating amazing, film scores out there. But I just take advantage of the unique advantage I have as a blind person who consumes movies through a lot of dialogue and sound design as music to create something that elevates the experience from a very personal standpoint. Our music, just like other art forms that have been stolen, from us, hundreds of years ago, the Benin bronze statues and other kinds of things that, now make museums in different places look worthy of visiting. The music and the drama and all of these things have also been a part of our culture for thousands of years. And it's important, and it's part of our identity. It mirrors us, and who we are. It's worthy of respect. It's worthy of understanding where it comes from. It is beyond fascination. For us as a people, it also has some of it also has a very strong spiritual implication. So and the same thing with a lot of the statues and the artworks that have been created thousands of years ago. They weren't just symbolic of who we are as a people in terms of our culture and all of that. They're also symbolic, I think, in terms of our spirituality, our beliefs, the things that root us in, the principles and the things that, whether it's sowing and reaping, whether it's harvest, whatever it is, these things are reflective of our spiritual nature. And I think our music is also that too, is reflective of, us as a people, as a culture, but it's also reflective of our spiritual nature. And I think that beyond fascination, it should be dealt with from a place, and beyond fascination and commerciality, it should be understood and dealt with, from a place of respect and the spiritual value that it also has. If you think about African music in Cuba and Yoruba as a religion and all of that, you will understand how that space out there in Cuba actually has respect for the music, and the tradition, to the point of regarding it as religion. And I'm not saying that's what everyone needs to do. I'm just saying everyone needs to understand that that is the power of our music. It is religion, it is spirituality, it is a way of life, it is culture, and as such, it can not only be viewed from the lens of just how commercially viable it is, and we ourselves also have a role to play in terms of taking control of how it travels, even among us, and how it's exploited, for our own benefit. So I think those are the kinds of conversations that need to happen, and I feel like the chokehold on the infrastructure that helps our music travel within the African space and in the diaspora should be released. And I say it, I think of how much of a stupid statement I'm making right now, because nobody's going to release the chokehold on something that is a moneymaker. But I think maybe that's more directed to us to take advantage, understand the significance and the importance of our own music beyond cents and dollars, and the value of it in terms of its spirituality and its representation of and its symbolism of our culture, so that we can then take hold of it and approach it. I think that's how Fela approached music. I think that's why Fela's music lives on to this day. I think that's how Bob Marley approached music. I think that's why Bob Marley's music lives on to this day. I think that's how Angelique Kidjo approaches music. I think that's how Jimi Hendrix. I think that's how we think of a number of people. The approach of music is understood from that depth, and I think we need to rise up to the occasion and reclaim our music with purpose. A lot of the problems that we deal with are not musical in nature. Have you ever tried to take a flight from Lagos to Chad? You have to stop in 4 countries sometimes before you get to Chad, which is just in our backyard here. So what controls African collaboration is not just the willingness of the artists, it's the fact that Africa is not the EU. You can take a 5-star, a Eurostar train from London to Paris and back and all of that. There are all these bottlenecks, that have been created that also influence how Africans simply travel from one part of Africa to the other. And so if I can't easily go from Lagos to Gabon, or from Lagos to Ghana, or from Lagos to Chad, how am I able to go to Chad and meet, Celestine Mondoe and, or go to Ghana and meet King Promise or whoever? There's a structure that is not entirely, ours to control. And if the likes of, Aliko Dangote would talk about that structure and, the barriers that they have to face, in terms of doing international business within Africa, then who is an ordinary musician? I think musicians try their best. I think we've tried our best. Mr. Easy is constantly collaborating in Ghana. We have the likes of Diamond Platnumz coming all the way from Tanzania, collaborating with Nigerian artists. We have Juma Jux. We have Angelique Kidjo, who's collaborating with any African artist of note, and she herself is an artist of note. We have Yemi Alade, who's also collaborating with all kinds of African artists, from Cabo Snoop to DJ Arafat of blessed memory, to we have the likes of Flavor and Fally Ipupa. So I think we're doing our best, even when we find ourselves in the international stages, to appreciate our African artists, and we're doing our best to collaborate. But the issue of collaboration goes beyond what the artists can do by themselves. It's a matter of transnational exports. It's a matter of opening the doors, and the windows to economic collaboration, generally speaking. So then it affects health, it affects education, it affects, all kinds of areas. So yeah, I think the African artists are doing the best that they can. Are we able to create a more level, a more free flowing? Again, it goes back to that whole chokehold. There's a chokehold in African travel and African interrelations, and as long as that exists, there's only so much we can do. Brotherly, me and you na family. I am everyday people. Call of my life, of course. I thought you said just songs. Call, I could have told you that without even breathing. Call of my life, nothing else. Nigeria, we hail thee. Success. That's tough. Oh. That's tough. Success. I think of me. Money. It's an old song. I like that song. Africa is our culture. African something. It's an old song by Magic Fashek. I think it's from his first album. African is something. I think it's from the Prisoner of Conscience album also. African. Okay. And then there's Africa Unite, Bob Marley. Love. Oh my goodness. I think of Stars Align. You're the meaning of sunshine, the reason my stars align. Johnny Drill. Music heals your body, heals your spirit. I think shout out to my sister Maumi. Legacy. I think of Oluwaye. Give them something for them to remember. K1 and Blackie, they had a song called Legacy. Kilonje Legacy, gone. I don't even remember that song. Yeah, it's very, very nice. Do you know that song?
Yes.
Yeah, this is my legacy. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you say legacy. What's up, everybody? This is Cobhams Asuquo, and this has been my exclusive on HipTv.